Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be using Lawn Fawn's Oh Gnome stamp set and also the Mushroom House dies, which I've pre-cut all the pieces because there's a lot of little pieces. So I'm just going to start putting this together for you. I'm also going to use some Distress ink in Brushed Corduroy. Seems to be my new favorite brown ink, so I'm just grabbing that. And I store them in a Stampin' Up case, just by colour, and then I have a pad for each, a foam pad for each inker, so I don't have to have a handle for every single colour, although that would be the ideal, of course. So I've got some different colours of Stampin' Up cardstock here. I just grabbed my scraps and try to find ones that would work. So I've got the main house is in Crumb Cake, then I have some Poppy Parade for the roof. I have, for these sort of darker browns, these are Soft Suede, and I have some grass green, garden green, garden green, I always get that wrong, for the grassy bits, and I'm inking the edges of all of them in Distress ink. And I think that if you start on one element in your card, and you want to ink the edges of it, then do that for all of them. That way the whole thing, all of everything, when you put it together, will all look like it's supposed to be together, like it's all cohesive, if that's the right word. So I took the back of a post-it note for these teeny tiny little green Pear Pizzazz pieces that also cut out from the dies, and they look like little flower ends or something. So I just cut a bunch of them and inked them as well. And the back of the door doesn't come with a die to cover the like window bit, so I just cut a piece of Daffodil Delight yellow cardstock, and I just cut it so that it would fit behind there, so it just covered that up. That door does open, there is a little hinge on that, but I'm actually going to just stick it flat to the house. I'm not going to have it as a hinged element, but you can do that, and then you can put something sort of hide or sort of looking like it's coming out of the doorway, and that'd be lovely. And then I'm just starting to put these together now. They are pretty easy to get together. They're very, very easy. It just took me a bit of finagling because of where the edge of like where the rooftop comes down. You just need to line that up properly so it looks like the roof. It gives that dimension of that top of the mushroom house. And then the little windows for like the dormer, I guess, like the top of the house, you'll see that in a second. That had a die to cut out like the inside of the house, so I did that in yellow as well, the same daffodil yellow. All the yellows are the same in here. And then I used basic black for the little lantern, which I've just put together, and this teeny tiny little you'll see in a second, very tiny little keyhole. And there is another little like doorknob. You can either use them on their own, or you can, I used them together without thinking, but it actually worked out okay, and I think it still works. I think the idea was that you had two different styles that you could put one or the other one on, but I put both on. I thought you've got to have a doorknob and a keyhole surely, but that's just how my brain works. But you don't have to put both on, you can use one at a time, you can use one or the other. And then I also used basic black for this, like I imagine like a wrought iron stand for the lantern, so that's what I'm just putting together here, just with some liquid glue. And tweezers like this are handy because you can just hold pieces together while the glue dries, or an acrylic block, that works too. So I'm just getting these little the little door on. I've got the little dormer window on, and like I say, I'm sticking the door flat. You can, like I say, you can easily have that hinged open and then have something sticking out of it, so one of the gnomes could be sticking out of it saying hello. So and then the chimney, you can put it on however, and that looks fine, but for me it didn't look quite right, so I just took it off before the glue properly adhered, and I just made it kind of shorter so it was closer to the house, and I just feel like it looks better for me. But you do what you want to do, you know what I mean? And now I'm going to stick these pieces together onto the house. Now you don't have to do this. I could have cut like a billion of these different little lanterns, you know, or however many you want to cut out. But I wanted to get as much of like the main house put together, so it was kind of like one piece that I could then put onto my card. So I'm adding some of the longer, there's a longer and a shorter grass piece, so I'm putting some of the longer ones onto the house itself. And then that, I believe, is my house finished for now. And there's some extra pieces of grass and things, and you'll see what I'll do with those later on. So that's basically the house. Isn't that cute? I think it's so cute. It's the first time I've got to use it. It's one of those things that I bought and then, you know, I didn't forget I had it, but I just didn't get around to using it yet. So what I did here is I used my brother's Scan and Cut and the Gnome stamp set from Lawn Fawn. And I stamped, and then I believe I stamped in archival ink, jet black, and I used my Scan and Cut to cut them out, and then I'm using my Magello Mission Gold watercolor paints. I love these. They were very pricey, but they are beautiful colors and they are beautiful paints to work with. It is a 36 palette, and that palette is huge. I know you can only see like a little bit of it, but it is a massive palette, and you do get all the tubes of color with it, so it will last a lifetime. And actually, I was thinking for the same with my watercolor, my Winsor & Newton Cotmans. I've got the tubes of those, and I'm actually thinking that I could easily make, you know, like my mum, a set. You can buy the palettes online, like on Amazon or something. And I could easily make her a set of each, because the tubes have got so much paint in them, even though they're about 10 mil or something, but there's so much paint in there. So as a crafter, this is probably going to last me a lifetime. If I was a full-on watercolor artist, then maybe not so much, but but they will, as a crafter, they're going to last me forever. So yeah, and I went old school. I went with a paintbrush, some water. There's a couple of little, like, I don't know, they're like little ceramic bowls. I think they actually had puddings in them when we first got them, and I just washed them out afterwards, obviously, and I used them as watercolor bowls. They're just small enough to fit on my desk and that. And I'm just taking a variety of different colors. I've used 3 different reds for the 3 different size mushrooms. I will go back and do the stems in a bit, and I'm just doing the same with the wheelbarrow, 2 shades of brown. It's very easy, simple watercoloring. I'm not doing anything fancy, but yeah, I wanted to go old school, as in not use one of those watercolor aqua marker things that I can never remember the name of, with the barrel where you would put the water into it, and use that as your water source. They are good. But for me, I feel like I have more control when I use a paintbrush and water, especially when I'm working with things like this. I don't know why, but I just feel like I have better control. So it's up to you. I use both. Depends what I'm doing. But for this, I thought this made sense to go old school. And I think this brush is about a size, I think it's a 1. I think it's very small. It's not very big at all. Which obviously you don't need it for such small images. I also decided to do, obviously the girl Gnome had to be in her own colours, and then the boys are in sort of opposites. So they're in, you know, the one that's got a blue hat and blue top, he's got green pants, and then the one who's got the green hat and green top has got blue pants. That's just what made sense at the time. In hindsight, I probably should have done them more like blue top, green pants, green hat sort of thing, but this works. And then I'm using, this looks very yellow, but it's actually, I think it's an ochre color, like a yellow ochre or something, which is probably why it looks quite yellow on screen, but it's quite a browny, like I suppose like a dirty yellow, but it looks kind of brown in real life. So yeah, I seem to have almost like overexposure and everything's very bright in this week's videos for some reason. I'm still working on the lighting thing. And then I think I took the same color actually, and I just put a little bit of hint of colour on their skin, and then just use my finger to dab off the excess, just so that there was a hint of colour, but so it wasn't just that white cardstock in the background. And then my mushrooms, I just took a shade of brown and just mixed it up and used that. I didn't have a mushroom colour per se, but I just grabbed a shady, you know, a light shade of brown. And then I'm going to let these dry completely, and I will come back and ink the edges of all of them. Again, trying to tie the whole lot in. You know, if you start inking the edges of things to give it that sort of vintagey, grungy kind of look, then do it on everything, because it makes the whole card or project look cohesive, in my opinion. So I'm just inking the edges with some brushed corduroy distress ink, just the regular distress ink, not an oxide or anything. And this didn't actually take that long, maybe a minute or so. Like, there's a lot of images, yes, but it didn't actually take me that long. And also another thing on the images is make sure you when you stamp out and you're not sure exactly how your project or your card or whatever it is going to go, stamp more than you think you're going to need. You can always save the extra ones for another project, or you can always put the extra ones inside the card as well, if you're making a card. And kind of, I don't know, I just think if you have more to play with than you need, then, you know, you're not sort of suddenly sitting there thinking, oh no, now I've got to stop and do more of the same thing. Then for the background, I'm using some, I believe it's an acrylic paper by Smith's, and I just decided that it's got good texture on it. I thought I'll just use it. And I was trying to decide what oxides to use here. So I've got Bundled Sage for the grass, and then I'm going to use Shaded Lilac for the sky. It's kind of a bluey purpley colour, and it kind of works. Like, when I'm looking at it now afterwards, I think it works ish. But if you don't try, you don't know. So key thing, if you think of an idea, just wing it and see what happens. If you really don't like it, then it's a piece of paper and a bit of ink. It's not the end of the world. Although I do struggle to let go of stuff like that. So, but all I'm doing is it's just makeup brushes. You can use an ink blending tool, and there are some of the brushes on the market that are made for, you know, crafty world. And I just inked from dark and then let it fade out towards the grassy bit. And then I used some water from a distress sprayer and just spritzed it on there, and then I'll mop some of that up just to give a bit of texture in the background. It's nothing major, you're not really going to see a lot of that by the end of it. And then I also sprayed on some mica powder in Perfect Pearls, in the colour Perfect Pearls. I just have a little bottle on my desk. If you've seen some of my previous videos, I'm kind of use it for everything, and it's very subtle in the background. You can barely see it. I don't know whether it's the paper that it just didn't take to it, or I'm not sure, but it didn't really seem to show up much on there. Now I just decided, because I wanted to get this done, that this piece of paper, I went to use my heat tool and it wasn't plugged in, so I just decided it was dry enough, so I just went with it. You probably want to let it dry a little more than I did, but I wanted to get this card out there and ready and done for you, so I just went with it. So I've just got some strong adhesive on the back. This is actually a Lawn Fawn one, and I think this is the 1/4 inch size. It is very sticky. It's nice tape. I've got the 1/8 inch, which I've used as well, and that's again really nice tape to use. And it's just on a Poppy Parade, sorry, Stampin' Up! Card base. I had this random sized card that I have a bunch of them, pre-folded cards, and they're just random sizes. So I decided to use that today. So I made the inked piece, like the background piece, I made that fit that card, and then when I'd stuck it on, I just used some brushed corduroy again around the edges to give it again that same edged look with the ink. And I just think it makes it look like everything's working together. That's just my opinion. If you don't want to do that, don't worry about doing that. You can do whatever you want on your cards. There's no wrong in any of this. So now's the best bit. Now I'm trying to figure out where I want all these pieces that I've stamped, inked, coloured, painted, you know, die cut and put together. Now I get to play and decide where they all go. And this for me is the best bit. This is the bit where you get to really think about maybe it being some sort of story. You know, maybe there's a little, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of story behind it. You know, there's a little kind of like a book, you know, a kid's book or something, or an adult book in my head. So, you know, like a big kid's book. And so I'm just putting all these pieces in, thinking, you know, figuring out where I want them to go. I've got a couple of acrylic blocks which also help to hold it down, because the paper that I used for the for painting the images, because I've got that plus the thickness of each of the, like as you're layering all those images, there is a thickness to that cardstock. So having like the blocks or holding those down when the glue's trying to dry, it helps a lot, because it's yeah, it will want to curl up because it's now suddenly got another bit of moisture on it, or it might, I don't know, it just helps to flatten that while it dries, the glue dries. So in the back of the barrow, I'm going to, I've taken some thin sticky tape, that's old school, double-sided sticky tape, like quite a strong one, and I've just taken the tape off, and I'm using those extra, like, they look like flower bud pieces, those ones are stuck on the post-it note, to ink them, and I'm just sticking those in the barrow. I just stuck them to the back, got them to roughly where I wanted them, and you'll see in a second how they just add another layer and another element. And I love how that worked out. I wasn't planning on doing that, but it just, I was wondering what I was going to do with them, but I didn't know that was what I was going to do. And I haven't put any adhesive on the back of those green grassy bud things. I've left them to just be, so that there's more, for me, there's more texture than in the background or in that barrow. So again, just going around, decided didn't want that one there. So as long as you get it off the cardstock quick enough, you should be good. It shouldn't affect your, you know, the glue shouldn't really do anything to it, shouldn't damage it too much. So you just got to be kind of quick with it. So again, just laying out where I think things should go, using these little shorter grasses as well, just to decide where they're going to go. This one gave me a bit of jip and it wouldn't sit where it was supposed to. So, you know, these things happen, but it's fine. And then because I had, and I'm sorry I'm off screen at the minute, because I had so many extra pieces, again, go in the inside of your card, stick some of them on the inside. It's just another element to your card. You don't have to do this. Just if I've got so many, I sort of try and put a few extras in there. I could have just put the rest of them, like I'm going to do these extra couple, in the back of my stamp sleeve, where my stamp, where I store my stamps, and that would have been fine too. You could do that with all of them, and then they can be used on another project. That's what I was saying about making extra as you go, rather than having to stop halfway through your process. Have all those things prepped and ready, and then it's easy to do things. So I'm just going to put the sentiment together now. Lawn Fawn stamps are really nice because of how they're cut. You can actually line them up really easily. They're in like a block form, so you line them up, and then the spacing is really nice. So I used some VersaFine Onyx black ink and just stamped it straight on in the gap. And I thought the sentiment was quite sweet. I have so much room. Room in my heart for you or something. I can't remember what it says now, my hand's in the way. And I'm using some glossy accents on all the glass bits, so like on the door, on the window in the like dormer bit, and then also in the little lantern. And it got a bit goopy because I was a bit overexcited with the glossy accents, but it's fine. And that's pretty much it. That's the card. So I hope you enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. It's dragging out dies that I haven't used, it's dragging out stamps, it's dragging out watercolors that maybe you haven't used for a while, bit of ink blending with your distress inks. So it's bringing all these things together and how you can bring them all together into a cute little project. So I hope you like this, I hope you enjoy, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye. That was a bit squeaky. Bye. It's better.